This War of Mine is a survival-themed strategy game where the player controls a group of civilian survivors in a makeshift shelter in a besieged, war-torn city. The main goal of the game is to survive the war with the tools and materials the player can gather with the characters they control. Most of the characters under the player's control have no military background or any kind of survival experience, and will require constant intervention by the player in order to stay alive. It is the player's responsibility to maintain their character's health, hunger and mood levels until the declaration of a ceasefire, which occurs after a randomized duration. During the daytime, hostile snipers will prevent the survivors from venturing outside, thereby offering the player time to craft tools from gathered materials, trade, upgrade the shelter, cook food and heal the survivors. At night, the player is given the opportunity to venture out and scavenge nearby areas for valuable resources for their everyday survival. During their excursions, the player-controlled survivors can encounter other NPC survivors of the war, who they can choose to help with gifts of food or medicine, or rob and kill. The player can also build a radio inside their shelter, which will provide useful information such as weather warnings, updates on the city's economy and news of the ongoing war effort to help the player plan appropriate shelter upgrades and scavenging missions. The player starts off with 2, 3 or even 4 survivors whose actions the player can affect. The actions the player makes will change the type of endings each survivor has. The game starts the player with Bruno, Pavel, and Marco or Claudia on their first time through. Each character has 1 or 2 traits that hinders the player. Some traits are useful during certain days while others are useful all the time. For example, Bruno has a trait called Good Cook which helps the player use less fuel and water when cooking meals. There are a total of 12 playable characters. A scenario editor was added into the game through Update 1.3, which will allow players to create and select survivors. The editor also allows environmental conditions and the length of conflicts to be changed.